process of managing the whole process. What about managing suppliers? You have a contract with someone now. Now you need to, you're the buyer, right? Contracted with someone to provide you something. How do you manage that?
Well, I think one of the things they pointed out was that using few suppliers as opposed to many suppliers.
Say that again?
Using fewer suppliers as opposed to many suppliers. And you have the negotiation of long-term contracts versus short-term.
Okay, so another attribute is the contract, is it long-term or short-term? Okay, that's going to dictate, okay.
And then also talks about milestone tracking.
Okay.
Like the detailed progress, and milestone tracking of suppliers and the subcontractors.
Okay.
And then analyzing every action in the supply chain between the buyer and the lowest level vendor.
Actions, okay.
And then they also have the integrated supply chain. And basically says developing trust between trusted partnerships with the sellers in exchange for a value-added business service provider.
Okay. And I added communication here as well.
Okay.
In essence, nothing here is new. It's all managing them like you manage your own people. So again, there's nothing magical here. You just have to remember there's more at stake here because they're a supplier outside your company, right? And you don't want to get into litigation or arbitration. We're going there next. You need to manage them diligently like you would manage your own team. But in some cases, you have to have additional leverage points there because, again, they're not with your company. And to Jason's point, in some cases, you may have a partnership because you've done business with them before, right? So you can trust them more versus this is the first time you're going to have that trust established with them yet, right? So you have to stay more up on them and closer to them in some cases. Okay.
It's like thinking of that MIT game, right?
The what?
The MIT game, supply chain management, where they kind of,
oh yes,
that game that they played, it
yeah.
kind of encompasses all that.
So, again, fewer suppliers than many. Again, you have fewer than many. Fewer, again, it just means you're managing fewer suppliers. You still have the same process. So really, it comes down to, this trust and partnership, one and the same. If you've got that partnership established, you have more trust in them. Communication, obviously, right? Actions, what's the buyer doing, what's the seller doing, that has to be spelled out. What am I doing, what are you doing? Just like in your course project, right? Part one, I ask, what are you doing? What is your supplier doing? Right? Milestone tracking, you may have additional milestones if it's someone you've never done business with, just to keep up on them. One other item I'd like to add here is you want to have some type of criteria for what? Acceptance, right? That's spelled out so it's not very vague where Sandra says, I did what you said. I said, no, you didn't. And there's nothing we can measure it against. It's very gray. Right? You don't want that. You want it measurable.
You asked for 100, I gave you 100,
right.
Except only 20 of them work.
Right.
But I didn't give you the 100.
Okay. And then escalation. So what's the escalation process if you need to escalate? And with a contract, it may be different. Very good. Okay, done. You guys are set. Okay, let's jump here. Litigation and arbitration. So if you don't manage your supplier well, you may end up here, right? So again, keep it in terms of what we discussed in class. Litigation, arbitration. Differences, what are they commonly for, and so forth. Who's going to take that?
Time consuming.
Which one? Okay,
Litigation.
okay.
Time consuming, costly,
When consuming costs money, okay?
and all, I guess it should be avoided, necessary if well possible.
Okay,
Runs with share of risk.
okay.
Some ways to resolve disputes without litigation, to recognize contracts. Contract documents aren't perfect. Keep larger objectives in mind. Focus on facts. Depersonalize issues. Be willing to make reasonable compromises.
Okay. How is it different than arbitration? So if you have to go to litigation, what is involved?
More important.
Okay, so there's court here, okay? The judge, right? Is it binding or not?
It can be appealed.
Can be appealed, that's what I'm looking for, I'm sorry. Can be appealed. Right, costly, like you said. Right? Probably more time consuming. Okay, arbitration, let's go there then.
Usually when disputes cannot be resolved, disputes will be settled under current rules of the American Arbitration Association.
Okay, so it's by an arbitrator, decides.
By a single arbitrator.
Okay,
Language used in the arbitral process in English.
okay, contract is enforced.
We can also have international contract disputes where three arbitrators are appointed by chairman of the World Arbitration Institute.
Who determines this? It's an arbitrator versus a judge, right?
And the binding.
And it cannot be appealed. That's reading at the Oh, I'm sorry, chapter, please.
8, I believe.
So again, arbitrator cannot be appealed, right? It's less costly, right? And typically less time consuming, right?
Hey, Marcus, I think it's 9, or I think it's 10.
Yeah, I didn't. this is
Arbitration is right off of 169 and 10.
Page-
Reading out somebody else.
Chapter 10?
Yeah. I'm assuming litigation was in the same chapter, guys?
Yeah, it is 10.
Okay.
In arbitration was the first one?
Cannot be resolved. You go where you can't resolve something. Now again, either of these is probably where you can't resolve. The main thing here, I think that the main items here is time consuming, costly, it's taking a risk, that's risky too.
I think there's something also important to point out is litigation, there's usually one winner, and arbitration usually is kind of a negotiation to see if they can come to an agreement.
Yeah. Typically, yeah. This tries to, do a compromise, right? Try to do a compromise. So again, it's a judge, it's a jury, it cannot be appealed. This can be appealed, that cannot, it's less costly, less time consuming. And you try to appeal, you try to accommodate both parties if you can.
Right. Because I think that's usually, whether it's a contract or whether it's a divorce or wherever arbitrators, they're usually trying to find
The middle ground.
Yeah, middle ground.
It's an either or, right? It's not like one would lead to another.
No. Well, this cannot lead to this because it's binding.
Because it's
You
binding.
can't-
And you
could
probably-
go from here to here. Right?
What's that point after contract documentation? Does that say that
You personalize the issues.
you personal?
I don't know the answer.
I don't know if you would either. I don't think you would. Because if you're already in court,
Yeah, you got-
you're going to get
really
the
going
answer there.
Yeah.
Because the idea is you go to arbitration to avoid
Right.
litigation.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, from a little bit of experience, the judges will sometimes tell you what.
They may tell you to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. they'll tell you, you know what, it's best if you do this. It's gonna be less costly, time consuming for both parties,
Because you might
and
see,
you're both gonna win it.
because you might see there's a way that you guys can
Yes.
compromise.
Yeah. I mean, that's often the case in, let's say, personal situations. You know, maybe it's something civil with you and a neighbor, you know, you and a family member, or, you know, whatever it may be. It may be easier to do it that way.
Okay.
All right, let's see, where do we go? Let me walk down. You did, you guys are done. You guys just said
We're next, we got Arbor Award.
RFPs. Award's done.
Award and post-award.
Okay, award, what do you have to add to that? Maybe minimal, but let's make sure we have it.
Well, the award is part of phase two, and it involves source selection by the buyer. And source selection, it may not be just the price. Selecting the source may depend on past performance or quality. It depends on what you consider and what your criteria is in choosing.
Okay?
It may be that you're looking for the best quality. You may have quoted you the highest price, but knowing that they're the best ones around, you're willing to pay it.
You know, some criteria like cost, quality, milestone, time frame.
And that's where it involves, there's a quantitative and a qualitative process in source selecting.
Okay?
It's also chapter 9.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. It is checking out.
Here's the little chapters.
Chapter 9, 7, 9, 10. Right? Thank you, Nick.
On slide 6 here, it talks about, we pointed out what's qualitative and what's quantitative in decision-making, like knowledge of the service, knowledge of the industry, and knowledge of the marketplace, compared to quantitative, which is like standards, things that you weigh that, which could be like the price or their percentage of completing on time projects and whatnot.